Welcome to my preview of the TicketSmarter Birmingham Bowl, featuring 11-2 number 20 Houston going up against 6-6 overall Auburn on Tuesday, December 28th, noon Eastern Time on ESPN. I am so excited to preview this bowl game. I've been wanting to preview an Auburn game all season long. I wanted to do the Iron Bowl. It unfortunately didn't end up working out timing-wise, even though I made some promises on my channel, was unable to keep, so I apologize for that. But I'm so excited to finally be able to preview an Auburn game, of course. Former head coach Brian Harsin, former Boise State head coach Brian Harsin, over coaching at Auburn now, and I have watched pretty much every Auburn game this season. I already have a connection to Auburn anyway. My uncle graduated from Auburn, but I've been incredibly excited to see what Brian Harsin has been able to do there. I know they didn't end the season the right way, end the season the way they wanted to, but they played some close games against teams that Auburn in the past, you wouldn't have thought that they would have been playing that close against teams of that quality. They have some great wins along the way, and I think the future here is bright. I know that the season isn't exactly what fans were hoping for, not what I was projecting for Auburn either. I think that, again, that finish along the last back end of the season unfortunately ended up hurting a little bit of the prestige that Harsin had for this team, but they're going to make some changes. They already have started making some changes. Bo Nix transferring out of the program. I think that the future, that Brian Harsin, first year, he's working with new pieces. Second year, is going to show a big improvement. The third year for Auburn is definitely going to put Auburn as one of those teams that is competing at the upper level of the Power 5, upper level of the SEC. But we're talking about Auburn today in this game. Auburn favored by 2.5 points, given a 59.4% chance of winning. Looking at looking at the series history between these two teams, they actually have met in the past. Auburn owning the record 5-1 overall. The first ever meeting was in 1956, a 12-0 defeat of Houston. The Houston's last win was in 1969, where they were able to win 36-7. And then the last game in the series was in 1973, where Auburn won 7-0. So the teams haven't played from the 70s. Of course, two very different programs. It's about time that they ended up meeting up. Houston, one of those programs that has established themselves as one of the top teams in the group of five, and then Auburn, a team that is a blue blood of college football and has really shown some sparks throughout the last couple of decades, and hasn't really been able to light the flame. And I think we're going to see that coming forward into the future here. So record review overall, Houston having a better year than really anybody was projecting. Athlon Sports was saying 8-4. I was saying 9-3. Ended up 11-2. Now part of that is because of an incredibly easy schedule, one of the easiest schedules, not just in college football overall, not just compared to Power 5, but I mean easy schedules for Group of 5 levels as well. AAC having a very, very down season, Houston able to cruise right through that. Auburn, on the other hand, 9-3 is what I was projecting for them. I really had high hopes for this program. Looking at their schedule, I thought it was makeable, and it definitely was. They were even sitting about halfway through the season. We're looking at a team that could get to that 9-3, which I was projecting, and then the wheels came off the bus here in the last section. 7-5 is what Athlon Sports was projecting, of course, ending up 6-6. Let's look at this record overall. Houston, they only basically played two good teams, Texas Tech at the beginning of the year and Cincinnati at the end of it. They had a win against SMU in between that, a team that was ranked at the time, but then ended up season 8-4, really not living up to at least the mid-season expectations of that program. That was probably their best win, 44-37. But they lost to Texas Tech, 38-21, and then they lost to Cincinnati. Again, that was a very similar score there. So 38-21 against Texas Tech, and then 35-20 versus Cincinnati. Really losing to the two best teams. It's a team with a lot of question marks. I think that they are worse than this record. I think that they are 11-2 because of an easy schedule overall. I don't think they're worthy of this ranking. I don't think they're worthy of this 11-2 record. You look at who they played, right? So they lost to Texas Tech, Rice, Gambling State, Navy, Tulsa, Tulane. All of those are some of the bottom tier teams in the country overall. Gambling State, it's a different level, FCS, but it's still an FCS program. And then East Carolina, a team that had a 7-5 record, but a lot of that was again because of easy scheduling. SMU ended up 8-4, UCF terrible, Temple terrible, Memphis terrible this year, and Connecticut terrible. So really, you look at the schedule, there's nobody on there. I mean, I didn't look at the exact power ranking of their schedule overall compared to the rest of the country, but it's got to be in the sub 100 or in the plus 100 level compared to the rest of the teams in the country. So definitely a team that has got a lot of fluff on here in this schedule, a lot of cupcakes along the way, and we'll have to see if that bad diet ends up impacting them in this bowl game against Auburn. Auburn, Other way around, incredibly tough schedule, and they played it really well early on. 6-2 to open the season. 6-2, a loss to Penn State, a ranked Penn State at the time, 28-20, which was determined a lot by the referees in that one. Auburn fans can definitely tell you that. But they opened up the season 6-2, and it looked like this was going to be that year. I mean, all the hopes, all the promises, all the expectations that fans had for this program with Brian Harsin, that the promises I made in my preview videos of Auburn football, they all looked like they were going to come true here. And then it just completely fell apart. 4 losses to end the season. Mississippi State, South Carolina, Alabama, who they lost to in heartbreaking fashion, 4 overtimes, 24-22. The fact that they played them that close is a plus for Auburn, but the fact that they could have won the game and didn't. I mean, Alabama had a game tying drive with less than it was like a minute 6 left or something like that. It had 90 plus yards to go in there and punch it in to tie the game. So just the biggest issue for Auburn this year, not being able to finish and close the gap. But they have some great wins here too. I mean, they beat Arkansas. They beat a ranked Ole Miss team who's number 8 in the nation right now, and they beat them. So this has just been one of those confusing season. You just don't know what you're going to get from Auburn. Are you going to see the Auburn team you saw at the beginning of the season that comes out high, or are you going to see the team that kind of slumps a little bit in the second half of the season here? And it's really been a disappointing and frustrating season for Auburn fans. But the fact that they've been so close, the fact that they got the good wins early, and the fact they've been close even in their losses, I think should give Auburn fans a glimpse into the future here, that this team is turning things around. Not really any blowout losses on this season. They were competitive and just needed a couple things to break their way, and it didn't. College football, at the end of the day, a lot of it is about the chances that you get and what happens with those, and just a few chances squandered or a few chances not given and ended up going a different way here. So this is a 6-6 Auburn team, but they're probably the best 6-6 team that you will find anywhere in the country. Definitely better than the 6-6 record going against Houston, which is probably the worst 11-win team that you will find in the country. I mean, I would even put UTSA over Houston right now. I think that they've played more competently and competitively than Houston has this year, even though I don't value UTSA's 12-1 record either, because that was a very weak schedule as well. But really, Houston, an 11-2 number 20 team, going up against 6-6 Auburn. Yet Auburn is one that is favored in this one, and definitely rightfully so. Looking at top players for Houston, it's going to be their quarterback Clayton Tune, 3,263 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So definitely a threat in the passing game. For Auburn, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. They've lost their top quarterback, so he's gone. Bo Nix is gone. So it's going to fall down to T.J. Finley. Is he going to be able to step up? He has 600 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. Some people even said throughout the season that he should have been the starter, that Brian Harsin should have knocked Bo Nix out earlier in the year and let T.J. Finley come in. Bo Nix has been so inconsistent throughout the year. That's been a big problem for Auburn. A lot of the reason that they got some of those losses. So is T.J. Finley going to be able to step up on the biggest stage here? He's not guaranteed to start next season. He's had some there's a lot of transfer quarterbacks though in that transfer portal that could come in. TJ Finley has played well in his time that he's gotten on the field, and he's definitely made a case to be the starter next season, but it's not guaranteed. Can he further that case? Can he build that resume with a good competent outing here against Houston to get that win? I mean, if despite everything that's happened for Auburn this year, if they can finish the season 7-6, get a win against a top 20 team, whether they deserve that ranking or not, they've got it, against a top 20 team in Houston, it's going to put the right spin on the offseason coming into next season for Houston to come in with high hopes for the season. And a lot of times, I mean, it's the energy and the vibe that you come into ends up impacting some of those smaller things that gets you wins in games. So for keys to this game here, for Houston, I'm going to say for Houston, patience and don't let a fast start demoralize you. Fast start by Auburn. Because Auburn, and this has been a trend, unfortunately, we saw at Boise State too, it's been a trend with Brian Harsin teams that they play fast. They play well in the first half. They get off to a lead, and it looks like they've got it, like, all right, they can keep this up. They're going to just destroy them. And then everything just falls apart in the second half. Either they put it in cruise control or adjustments are made, and the second half is not the same team you saw in the first half. So if Houston can survive the first half, don't get demoralized, know your opportunities are coming in the second half, try to minimize damage in the first half, they're probably going to get a chance to come back in the second half. For Auburn, For Auburn, I'm calling for them to bring Fiesta Bowl magic to this one. Little known fact, maybe not so little known, but a lot of people, the focus of that 2006 Fiesta Bowl is Chris Peterson. But the offensive coordinator for that game, first year offensive coordinator, was Brian Harsin. He was the offensive coordinator for that game. Chris Peterson, ultimately the one with the call to do those trick plays, but he's the guy who was designing those, who was bringing them up, getting the guys through practice. He was the mastermind behind those trick plays, behind the hook and ladder for the touchdown, behind the halfback pass for the touchdown, behind the Statue of Liberty for the 2-point conversion. He was the mastermind behind all of that. That is in his wheelhouse. That is the kind of creative mind that he brings to the table for Auburn here. And he needs to bring that into this game. I think that Auburn can beat Houston running their normal offense. I really do. But Auburn needs some storylines, some headliners to go out on in this game. And also, TJ Finley, he might not necessarily be up to 100% the task of this matchup. We'll have to see how it works out, but he's not necessarily someone that you can 100% rely on in this game. So you might need something a little bit extra special, a little bit of razzle-dazzle to get you through in this one, especially with a chance of slumping in the second half. Bringing in some trick plays, bringing in some momentum changers might be enough to spark some creativity and keep you pushing forward, keep you going, defeating defensive adjustments in the second half. So that's the key for me, is bring that Fiesta Bowl magic. Create a classic bowl game in this matchup. It's a great game. I'm excited to watch it. Two of the two very interesting and very different storylines in this one. See Auburn come in here, see if they can upset, because it would be a ranking upset here against Houston. Bring in that magic that made Boise State so special in the early years and was able to continue and propel this program to bigger and greater things, and made Boise State a program that they would build themselves around, become one of the top teams in the group of 5. Auburn can do the same thing here. They of course, the season's overall not the same story. They're not playing in the Fiesta Bowl against a ranked Oklahoma team and with a undefeated record coming to it. That's not the story, but you can still build that sense with a masterful game here against Houston that brings in excitement, that energizes the fan base that might have some slumping support right now, energizes the fan base, energizes this team into a long off season, so that you're coming into next year with high hopes and high expectations. And I'm going to say one more thing. Brian Harsin, he's always been one of my favorite coaches for Boise State. I love his attitude. I love his energy. I love what he does. And I'm going to tell him the same thing that he told me when I met him in the Blameyer Blameyer Athletic Center. It was Blameyer Football Center. When I met him in the Blameyer Football Center, and he actually signed my ball here. I got his signature on that. I'm going to tell him the same thing that he told me, because I was all hyped for the season. I was saying this could be the year. It was his first season with Boise State. And I was saying, Boise State can do great things this year. I'm excited. I think that they can go, undefeated. I think they can go to a New Year's Six game. And he told me that season, he said, it's just going to be one game at a time. This is paraphrased. It's not an exact quote. I didn't write it down. This is coming off of my memory. But he told me I was all hyped for the season, talking about what Boise State could do. And he said maybe. He said maybe. But he's all about focusing on one game at a time. He says we just got to take care of business and win one game at a time. It doesn't matter what's behind us. Boise State in that season lost 2 games. They lost to Ole Miss and they lost to Air Force, and they still got to that Fiesta Bowl because it didn't matter. Brian Harsin was focused on one matchup at a time, trying to win the next game, regardless of what the record said before, but behind you, whether you had a winning record or a losing record, just approaching each game like it's the first game of the season, like the scoreboard is 0-0. And I think that's the mentality he's going to have coming into this one. So this coach, the record is 0-0 right now. Get that first win of the season, that same first win mentality that has had so much success for you throughout your coaching career. I'm excited to see what ends up happening this one. I'm pumped for this bowl game. I'm going to be rooting on Auburn all the way here. So go War Eagles. Excited to see what ends up happening this game. So thank you. I'm going to call Auburn with the win. I'm predicting Auburn with a win. Finish the season strong, overcome any minor second half slumps to be able to get that win. Maybe they do slump a little bit in the second half, but Houston is unable to make up for a first half deficit, and Auburn able to turn on the gas in the last quarter to get the win here. And I'm going to call over on the over-under. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's not just Boise State content. I do all college football content overall, and I'm previewing every single bowl game. You don't want to miss out on any of those. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. I said go War Eagle earlier because I do want to support Harsin, but I'm going to end every single video where my true Alliance lines, Boise State fan all the way. So as always, go Big Blue!